One of the biggest questions from Power is, how could Kanan kill Duke, especially considering their relationship in raising Kanan? The easy, surface-level answer is that he killed Jukebox to save Tariq. But you know we never take the easy, surface-level answer. It's not that simple. It never is with Power, especially when it comes to the relationship between these two. It definitely went a lot deeper than just Kanan saving Tariq. I started to really ask the question when we were first introduced to the younger versions of Duke and Kanan back in Season 1. How do you go from this in Raising Kanan to that in Power, where you could really sense some underlying tension between the two? That's why I've always believed there would be a moment where their relationship takes a big turn. Kanan's relationship with Rak, the rest of his family, and Jukebox is one of the biggest questions that everybody seems to ask. Well, look at how close Kanan is to Duke. How could he possibly kill her the way he does in Power? We do give a full and complete answer to that question. That was Sasha Penn talking about how Kanan could kill Duke back in Power. That's one of two topics we're going to break down in detail in this discussion. In Part 1, we'll take a look at Duke's relationship with Rak. In Part 2, we'll explore the turn and fight with Kanan, and what might contribute to the cold relationship we saw in Power, and more generally, what's next for Jukebox in Raising Kanan Season 5. One of the things that became quite apparent at the beginning of Season 4 was the isolation of Rak. Kanan was slipping further away due to the influence of Snaps and Pop. Marvin had a side hustle with Stefano, who wanted to get rid of Rak. Unique was attacking her organization in more ways than one. Kanan was blaming her for everything that was going wrong, but the one person Rak could lean on, count on, share secrets with, and feel a last resort kind of connection to Kanan through was Duke. We saw that when Rak was pregnant at the beginning of Season 4, she not only turned to Duke, but also opened up to her about her relationship with Unique. It goes back to the bond they built when Jukebox was living under Rak's roof. However, with Duke living under Rak's roof and being closer to her, Rak may not have noticed how aware Duke was of what was going on. Duke has always been very conscious of the world she lives in, the people around her, Queens, and the consequences of this life. She's been sharp from day one. As Jukebox has grown older, she's started seeing things from a new perspective. One thing this series shows so well is how, as characters age, their eyes open wider. They start seeing who the people in their lives really are. They begin to understand the world more fully. Duke has always been the conscience of the series. She's always had a sense of awareness that other characters haven't, maybe even better than anyone else. I think in that moment, Rak is shocked and devastated that Duke wouldn't be on her side, that she wouldn't believe Rak had nothing to do with Famous and Crystal's deaths. Rak had been there for Duke throughout the series. So from Rak's perspective, it feels like a betrayal. How could you think I would do something like this? She feels really alone. Duke has always been the one person she could come to and truly be herself with. She's pissed off. When you see her in the diner with Duke, it's unsettling. That's the thing about any season finale in Raising Kanan. The build-up always leads to intense, emotional confrontations. Some of you may remember in Seasons 1 and 2, it was with Lou. In Season 3, the dynamic shifted. In Season 4, it was Marvin and Kanan at the end, but I would even put the one with Jukebox right up there because of how much it hurt Rak. Just look at her reaction. That said, I always try to look at things from multiple perspectives. Jukebox probably felt that every time she tried to have a conversation with Rak, it ended up being about Kanan. What's Kanan up to? Check on Kanan. Look after Kanan. Duke knows who her aunt is. She knows what she's capable of. She knows what she's done. A classic example is D-Wiz. From Rak's perspective, she feels hurt because Duke has been a source of comfort throughout the series. She was also there for Duke when Marvin was in prison. She raised her. She supported her in Season 1 when she came out to Rak. She was there for her music. She was there when she considered joining the army. So Jukebox walking away in that diner scene wasn't just about losing someone she could trust. It was about losing her last real connection to Kanan. As Sasha Penn said, it's not lost on Rack that Duke is the closest person to Kanan. So if she loses Duke, she loses Kanan too, especially since Duke has always been her access point to Kanan. She's used Jukebox to keep an eye on him. To lose Jukebox, who idolized Rack and in many ways modeled herself after her, that's like losing everything. So yes, their relationship will be rocky going forward because Duke won't just be there for Rack as she was before. It will be interesting to see her reaction when she finds out what happened, something we can't yet be 100% sure of, but it will definitely contribute to a rocky relationship between her and Kanan. Now, let's talk about Kanan. One of the big stories this series has to tell is how Jukebox and Kanan ultimately became at odds with each other. A piece of that story is about them growing older and realizing who they are as individuals, rather than as a unit. Until now, they've grown up together, always seeing themselves as a pair. But now they're starting to understand themselves separately, and that can be a rocky transition. Back to the original question, how could Kanan kill Jukebox when their relationship was full of so much love? Back in Season 1, when Kanan introduced Duke, he said he didn't love anyone more than her. Whenever he had issues with Rack or anything else, Jukebox was always there for him. Even when Kanan accidentally contributed to Nicole's death, Jukebox's girlfriend, she didn't blame him. She said it was because of the messed up world they lived in. Nicole shouldn't have taken the crack from Duke's bag, but Kanan did make a huge mistake. Despite her pain in Season 2 with Kenya and everything she was going through, Duke was still always there for Kanan. More recently, in Season 4, she was there after Famous's death. She stood by Kanan as they looked for answers. She comforted him after Crystal's death. In Episode 10, we saw Kanan literally crying in Jukebox's arms. So how do you go from that to what we saw in Power? It was definitely about more than Kanan caring about Tariq. There's no way that's the only reason he turned on Jukebox. In Power Season 3, when we first met Jukebox, you could sense real fear in Kanan when it came to her. There was some serious unspoken history that they didn't get to explore, partly because Annika Noni Rose, who played older Duke, became a regular on another show. If she had stuck around, maybe we'd have gotten more of Jukebox's backstory. But not many people could put fear into Kanan the way she did. When Duke spoke, he listened. Her plan was always the plan, up until the very end, when he switched it up. There was definitely a level of fear here, because something happened between them in the past that Power couldn't explore. And yes, we'll get to the scar on Kanan's neck in just a moment. So how could he possibly kill her the way he did in Power? We do give a full and complete answer to that question. Now we can start to look at the storylines and connections, who Kanan is hanging around with, and how we might start to piece some of the puzzle together. Part of that puzzle is the influence of snaps and pop. I mentioned this in one of my breakdowns. Duke is very aware of the world she lives in. That goes all the way back to Season 1. Sasha Penn said something similar, that Duke is becoming wiser, more aware. But I'd argue she's always been smart. She's always been good at reading Kanan. She sees right through his nonsense. In Season 3, when she walked into the club with Kanan, she knew exactly who everyone was, including Snaps and Pop. In the episodes after Famous's death, you could sense the tide turning. They disagreed about who was behind the hit. Kanan thought it was Rack, based on what he saw in episode 407, but Duke always had her doubts. In episode 10, she mentioned how Snaps and Pop were always working an angle. It sounded just like them to throw Kanan at Rack, and she's definitely right. What did Kanan's narration say at the beginning? You have to control your emotions because people can use them against you. That's exactly what Snaps and Pop have been doing, using Kanan's emotions against him by blaming Rack for Famous's death, and now Crystal's. Meanwhile, Duke, even though she cares about Kanan and was friends with Famous, isn't blinded by emotion. She can see the chessboard more clearly. She knows Snaps and Pop are lying, even if she's not 100% certain. She has a strong sense, though, so if we're asking what contributes to Kanan killing Duke, here's the beginning. Snaps and Pop manipulating him, turning him against Rack, turning him against the Thomases. And now we have Kanan potentially taking the shot at Rack. If he did, big problems ahead with the rest of the Thomases for sure. Duke tried to stop him. She tried to make him see sense. She even picked up the phone, although we don't know who she called or if she tried to go to Rack's house to stop him.